Hello, welcome back. Was once a powerful and captivating figure in the pulpit, a man many admired and followed with unwavering loyalty. Bishop Charles H. Ellis III wasn't just a preacher. He was a force known across the nation for his charm, leadership, and legacy. But beneath the tailored suits and eloquent sermons, something darker was brewing. His fall from grace didn't come suddenly, but rather like a slow unraveling, a quiet collapse behind closed doors that finally erupted into a storm that could no longer be silenced. This wasn't just a personal failure, it was the unraveling of a legacy, and perhaps a divine reckoning for a leader who may have forgotten the sacred weight of his calling. Charles Ellis III didn't step into an ordinary role. He walked into the shoes of a spiritual giant, his father, Bishop David L. Ellis III, who had founded Greater Grace Temple in Detroit. When the elder Ellis passed, many wondered whether Charles could shoulder the legacy. At first, it seemed he could. Under his leadership, the church didn't just survive, it flourished. Thousands joined. Ministries expanded. Media presence exploded. The church became a national symbol of spiritual excellence, a destination for the faithful and the famous alike. From local worshippers to national celebrities and politicians, people flocked to Greater Grace Temple to witness Ellis preach with a voice that could inspire and captivate. He wasn't just a bishop, he was a brand. Eventually, he rose even higher, becoming the presiding bishop of the Pentecostal assemblies of the world, overseeing more than 1.5 million members. The man who once walked quietly behind his father now stood tall on global platforms. But as his profile grew, so did whispers. It started with subtle discomfort: his taste for luxury, his polished public image, the theatrical nature of his services. What had once felt like worship slowly began to feel like performance. The altar became a stage, the pastor a star, and the sanctuary an empire. For years, people stayed silent. After all, who would dare question the bishop? But behind the applause and applause-worthy sermons, insiders noticed shifts. Offerings were pushed more aggressively. Personal appearances began to overshadow spiritual presence. Some longtime staff left. Others remained but grew uneasy. The culture was changing. Leadership began to feel more like management. Pastoral care became programming. And though the lights shone bright, the spirit began to dim. Then came the real rupture: the accusations. Not just rumors, but disturbing claims of financial misuse, excessive spending on lavish trips, and secrecy around the church's internal finances. People who had once sacrificed for the ministry now questioned where their offerings were going. And when the very elders who had worshipped under Bishop Ellis's father began to leave, some quietly, others with vocal concern, it was clear that something foundational was cracking. Yet, Ellis held fast. He believed he was evolving the ministry. But many around him feared the soul of the church was slipping away. The public, however, remained mostly unaware until one uncomfortable moment broadcasted to millions changed everything. During the funeral of Aretha Franklin, a sacred and star-studded occasion meant to honor a gospel legend, Ellis found himself at the center of a scandal. As Ariana Grande finished singing a heartfelt tribute, Ellis wrapped his arm around her in a way that left viewers stunned. His hand visibly pressed against her breast, an image that circulated the globe within minutes. Ariana's discomfort was obvious. She laughed nervously and tried to pull away, but Ellis held firm. What might have been passed off as accidental quickly looked like something else entirely. Under the harsh replay of social media, outrage exploded. Hashtags trended. News outlets from CNN to The Guardian reported the story. Women's rights advocates, entertainers, and even pastors condemned the bishop's behavior. But what worsened the backlash was Ellis's reaction. Rather than express immediate remorse, he cracked an inappropriate joke mocking Ariana's name, likening it to a Taco Bell menu item. The comment was tasteless, tone-deaf, and enraged many. A delayed and vague apology followed, but it fell flat. Saying "maybe I crossed the line" felt more like denial than accountability. This was no longer about a single moment. It became a symbol of unchecked power, blurred boundaries, and spiritual authority used carelessly. The controversy ignited a long-held fire among former members and insiders. They began to speak out, quietly at first, and then more boldly. Women who had once seen Ellis as a trusted leader began sharing stories of manipulation, of discomfort, of private sessions that didn't feel right. One woman shared on Facebook how spiritual counseling had slowly shifted into something far more personal, comments about her body, compliments wrapped in theology, and subtle pressures masked as mentorship. Former volunteers stepped forward, two describing prolonged hugs, suggestive remarks, and late-night private meetings under the guise of spiritual mentorship. One woman recalled being asked personal questions about her dating life in a session that was supposed to be about prayer. Another said saying no wasn't really an option when you were dealing with the bishop. The power imbalance was too great. And worst of all, when some tried to report their discomfort, they were shamed, silenced, or told to pray harder. To question Ellis was to question God's anointed. Ellis's story is painful, but necessary. It forces hard questions. How many churches have blurred the line between spiritual and personal gain? How many leaders are masking ego as excellence? How many congregants are being led by charisma instead of character? And most importantly, how much longer will we stay silent in the name of protecting a broken system? Because at the end of the day, a title can't save you. Influence won't protect you. And performance can't hide everything forever. Only character, only humility, and only real accountability will keep you standing when the spotlight fades. Maybe what happened to Bishop Ellis isn't just a scandal. Maybe it's a warning, a wake-up call to leaders still standing, to remember why they stepped into ministry in the first place. Because if the foundation isn't built on truth, it won't matter how bright the lights are. Sooner or later, everything in the dark comes to light.